Celebrating Valentine's Day. Praise be to Allah, the Lord of the worlds, and blessings and peace be upon our Prophet Muhammad and upon all his family and companions. Allah has chosen for us Islam as our religion, and he will not accept any other religion from anyone, as he says. Interpretation of the meaning. And whoever seeks a religion other than Islam, it will never be accepted of him, and in the hereafter he will be one of the losers. Al-Imran 385. And the Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, told us that groups of his Ummah would follow the enemies of Allah in some of their rituals and customs. As it says in the hadith of Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, may Allah be pleased with him, who narrated that the Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, said, "You will certainly follow the ways of those who came before you, span by span, cubit by cubit, until even if they were to enter a lizard's hole, you would follow them." We said, "O Messenger of Allah, do you mean the Jews and Christians?" He said, "Who else?" Narrated by al-Bukhari and al-I'tizam bil-Kitab wal-Sunnah, Bab Kal al-Nabi, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, La Tatabayana Sanan Man Kana Kablikum, 8-151. And by Muslim in Kitab al-Ilm, Bab Idaba'a Sanan al-Yahud wal-Nasara, 420-54. What the Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, spoke of has indeed come to pass and has become widespread in recent times, in many of the Muslim countries. Many of the Muslims follow the enemies of Allah in many of their customs and ways of behaving, and imitate them in some of their rituals and in celebrating their holidays. The matter has been made even worse by the opening up of mass communications between peoples, whereby the rituals and customs of the kuffar are now transmitted with the glamorous adornment of sound and image from their countries into the Muslim countries, via satellite TV and the World Wide Web, Internet. Many Muslims have been deceived by their glamour. In recent years, a new phenomenon has spread among the Muslim youth, males and females alike, which does not bode well. This is manifested in their imitation of the Christians and their celebration of the Valentine's Day, which has led the scholars and Daze to explain the rulings of Sharia concerning that. Out of sincerity towards Allah, His Messenger, the leaders of the Muslims and their common folk, so that Muslims may have a clear understanding of this issue and so that they will not fall into that which will undermine the belief, Aqidah, with which Allah has blessed them. This is a brief discussion of the origins, development and purpose of this holiday, and what the Muslim should do with regard to it. The story of the Festival of Love, Valentine's Day. The Festival of Love was one of the festivals of the pagan Romans, when paganism was the prevalent religion of the Romans more than 17 centuries ago. In the pagan Roman concept, it was an expression of spiritual love. There were myths associated with this pagan festival of the Romans, which persisted with their Christian heirs. Among the most famous of these myths was the Roman belief that Romulus, the founder of Rome, was suckled one day by a she-wolf, which gave him strength and wisdom. The Romans used to celebrate this event in mid-February each year with a big festival. One of the rituals of this festival was the sacrifice of a dog and a goat. Two strong and muscular youths would dab the blood of the dog and goat onto their bodies, then they would wash the blood away with milk. After that there would be a great parade, with these two youths at its head, which would go about the streets. The two youths would have pieces of leather with which they would hit everyone who crossed their path. The Roman women would welcome these blows, because they believed that they could prevent or cure infertility. The connection between Saint Valentine and this festival. Saint Valentine is a name which is given to two of the ancient martyrs of the Christian Church. It was said that there were two of them, or that there was only one, who died in Rome as the result of the persecution of the Gothic leader Claudius, circa 296 CE. In 350 CE, a church was built in Rome on the site of the place where he died, to perpetuate his memory. When the Romans embraced Christianity, they continued to celebrate the Feast of Love mentioned above. But they changed it from the pagan concept of spiritual love to another concept known as the Martyrs of Love, represented by Saint Valentine, who had advocated love and peace, for which cause he was martyred, according to their claims. It was also called the Feast of Lovers, and Saint Valentine was considered to be the patron saint of lovers. One of their false beliefs connected with this festival was that the names of girls who had reached marriageable age would be written on small rolls of paper and placed in a dish on a table. Then the young men who wanted to get married would be called, and each of them would pick a piece of paper. He would put himself at the service of the girl whose name he had drawn for 1 year, so that they could find out about one another. Then they would get married, or they would repeat the same process again on the day of the festival in the following year. The Christian clergy reacted against this tradition, which they considered to have a corrupting influence on the morals of young men and women. It was abolished in Italy, where it had been well known, then it was revived in the 18th and 19th centuries, when in some Western countries there appeared shops which sold small books called Valentine's books, which contained love poems, from which the one who wanted to send a greeting to his sweetheart could choose. They also contained suggestions for writing love letters. It was also said concerning the origins of this holiday that when the Romans became Christian, after Christianity had become widespread, the Roman Emperor Claudius II decreed in the 3rd century CE that soldiers should not get married, because marriage would distract them from the wars they used to fight. This decree was opposed by Saint Valentine, who started to perform marriages for the soldiers in secret. When the emperor found out about that, he threw him in jail and sentenced him to execution. In prison, he, Saint Valentine, fell in love with the jailer's daughter, but this was a secret because according to Christian laws, priests and monks were forbidden to marry or fall in love. but he is still regarded highly by the Christians because of his steadfastness in adhering to Christianity when the emperor offered to pardon him if he forsook Christianity and worshipped the Roman gods. Then he would be one of his closest confidants and he would make him his son-in-law. But Valentine refused this offer and preferred Christianity, so he was executed on 14th of February 270 CE, on the eve of February 15th, the festival of Lupercalis. So this day was named for this saint. In the story of civilization, it says that the church devised a calendar in which every day was designated as the feast day of one of the saints. In England, Saint Valentine's Day was to come at the end of winter. When that day came, according to them, the birds mated enthusiastically in the forests, and the young men would put flowers on the windowsills of the homes of the girls whom they loved. The Story of Civilization by Wilderand, 1523. The Pope designated the day of the death of Saint Valentine, February 14, 270 CE, as a festival of love. Who is the Pope? He is the Archbishop, the Supreme Pontiff of the Universal Church. The successor of Saint Peter. Look at this Archbishop and how he prescribed for them the observance of this festival, which was an innovation in their religion. This reminds us of what Alea says, interpretation of the meaning. They, Jews and Christians, took their rabbis and their monks to be their lords besides Alea, by obeying them in things which they made lawful or unlawful according to their own desires without being ordered by Alea. Al-Tawbah 9:31. It was narrated that Adi ibn Hatim said, I came to the Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, wearing a gold cross around my neck. He said, O Adi, cast aside this idol. And I heard him reciting from Surat Bara, Al-Tawbah, interpretation of the meaning. They, Jews and Christians, took their rabbis and their monks to be their lords besides Alea. He said, they do not worship them, but when they permit them something they accept it as permitted. And when they forbid them something they accept it as forbidden. Narrated by Al-Tirmidhi, and it is a Hasan hadith. Among the most important symbols of this holiday: 1. Expressing joy and happiness on this occasion, as on their other major festivals. 2. Exchanging red roses, which are an expression of love, the spiritual love of the pagans or the love of the Christians. Hence it is known to them as the Feast of Lovers. 3. The sending of greetings cards. On some of these cards are pictures of Cupid, who appears as a child with 2 wings, carrying a bow and arrows. This was the god of love of the pagan Romans, exalted be Alea far above their fabrications and their association of others with him. 4. Exchange of words of love and desire in the greetings cards which they sent to one another, in verse, prose and short phrases. Some of the cards contain comical pictures and funny words, and they often contain the phrase "Be my Valentine." This represents the Christian concept of this festival after it was taken from the pagan concept. 5. In many Western countries, parties are held during the day and in the evening, where there is mixing of men and women, and dancing. Many of them send gifts such as roses and boxes of chocolates to their wives, friends and those whom they love. Anyone who looks at what is said above about the myths surrounding this pagan festival will clearly understand the following. Firstly, that its origins lie in the pagan beliefs of the Romans, where it was an expression of the spiritual love of the idols which they used to worship instead of Alea. Whoever celebrates it is celebrating an occasion of shirk on which the idols are venerated. Alea says, interpretation of the meaning. Verily, whosoever sets up partners, in worship, with Alea, then Alea has forbidden paradise to him, and the fire will be his abode. And for the Zalimun, polytheists and wrongdoers, there are no helpers. Al-Ma'idah 572. Secondly, that the development of this festival among the Romans was connected to myths and legends which no sound mind can accept. Let alone the mind of the Muslim who believes in Alea and his messengers, peace be upon them. Can anyone of sound mind believe that a she-wolf suckled the founder of the city of Rome and gave him strength and wisdom? Moreover, these myths go against the belief, Aqidah, of the Muslim, because the one who bestows strength and wisdom is the Creator, may he be glorified and exalted, not the milk of a she-wolf. The same applies to the myth that their idols could protect them from evil or keep wolves away from their flocks. Thirdly, among the ugly rituals of the Romans on this day was the sacrifice of a dog and a goat, the daubing of their blood onto 2 youths, then washing the blood off with milk, etc. This is something that would cause revulsion in anyone of a sound nature, and it is unacceptable to the sound mind. Fourthly, the connection between Saint Valentine and this festival has been questioned by many sources, and it considered to be far from definite. It would have been better for the Christians to reject this pagan festival in which they imitated the pagans. So how about us Muslims, who are commanded to be different from the Christians and the pagans before them? Fifthly, this festival was denounced by the Christian clergy in Italy, the bastion of Catholicism, because it was spreading bad attitudes and having an adverse effect on the minds of young men and women. So it is better for the Muslims to reject it, warn others against it, and to fulfill their duty towards it of enjoining what is good and forbidding what is evil. Someone may ask, why do we Muslims not celebrate this festival? This question may be answered in several ways. 1. Festivals are part of the laws, clear way and religious ceremonies of which Allah says, interpretation of the meaning. To each among you, we have prescribed a law and a clear way. Al-Ma'idah 548. For every nation we have ordained religious ceremonies which they must follow. Al-Hajj 2267. Like the Qibla, direction faced in prayer, prayer and fasting. So there is no difference between joining them in their festival and joining them in their other rituals. Agreeing with the whole festival is agreeing with kufr. Agreeing with some of their minor issues is the same as agreeing with them in some of the branches of kufr. Festivals are the most distinctive things by which religions are told apart, so whoever celebrates their festivals is agreeing with the most distinctive rituals of kufr. Undoubtedly going along with them in their festivals may in some cases lead to kufr. Dabbling in these things, at the very least, is a sin. The Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, referred to the fact that every nation has its own festivals when he said, "Every nation has its own Eid and this is our Eid." Al-Bukhari, 952, Muslim, 1892. Al-Iqta, 1471-472. Because Valentine's Day goes back to Roman times, not Islamic times, this means that it is something which belongs exclusively to the Christians, not to Islam. And the Muslims have no share and no part in it. If every nation has its own festivals, as the Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, said, every nation has its Eid, narrated by Al-Bukhari and Muslim, then this means that every nation should be distinguished by its festivals. If the Christians have a festival and the Jews have a festival, which belongs exclusively to them, then no Muslim should join in with them. Just as he does not share their religion or their direction of prayer. 2. Means resembling or imitating the pagan Romans, then the Christian people of the book in their imitation of the Romans in something that was not a part of their religion. If it is not allowed to imitate the Christians in things that really are part of their religion, but not part of our religion, then how about things which they have innovated in their religion in? Imitation of idol worshippers? Imitating the kuffar in general, whether they are idol worshippers or people of the book, is haram. Whether that imitation is of their worship, which is the most serious form, or of their customs and behavior. This is indicated by the Quran, Sunnah and Ijma, scholarly consensus. A. And be not as those who divided and differed among themselves after the clear proofs had come to them. It is they for whom there is an awful torment. Al-Imran 3-105. B. Whoever imitates a people is one of them. Narrated by Ahmad, 250, Abu Dawud, 4021. Shaykh al-Islam, Ibn Taymiyyah, said, this hadith at the very least indicates that it is haram to imitate them, although the apparent meaning implies that the one who imitates them is a kafir. As Allah says, interpretation of the meaning, and if any amongst you takes them, as awliya, friends and helpers, then surely, he is one of them. Al-Ma'idah 551. Al-Iqta, 722-725. Allah has forbidden imitation of the kuffar. He has described it as hateful and has warned against the consequences of that, in many ayahs, on many occasions, and in various ways, especially imitation of the kuffar. Sometimes he does that by forbidding following them or obeying them. Sometimes by warning against them or being deceived by their plots, following their opinions, or being influenced by their actions, conduct or attitude. Sometimes he does that by mentioning some of their characteristics that will put the believers off from them and from imitating them. Most of the warnings in the Quran refer to the Jews and hypocrites, munafiqeen, then the people of the book in general and the mushrikeen. Allah tells us in the Quran that imitating and obeying the kuffar may constitute ridda, apostasy. Allah also forbids following them, obeying them, or following their whims and desires and bad characteristics. Prohibition of imitating the kuffar is one of the basic principles of Sharia. Allah sent his messenger with guidance and the true religion so that it might prevail over all other religions, and Allah has perfected his religion for mankind. This day, I have perfected your religion for you, completed my favor upon you, and have chosen for you Islam as your religion. Al-Ma'idah 5-3, interpretation of the meaning. Allah has made Islam cover all human interests at all times and in all places and for all people. So there is no need to adopt the ways of the kuffar or imitate them. Imitation causes defects in the Muslim personality, such as feelings of inadequacy, inferiority, weakness and defeatism, then it leads to shunning and keeping away from the path and laws of Allah. Experience has shown that admiration for the kuffar and imitation of them causes people to love them, have complete faith in them and take them as friends and helpers. And to reject Islam and its people, its heroes, its legacy and values, and become ignorant of all of that. 3. In these times is to spread love between all people, believers and disbelievers alike. Undoubtedly it is haram to love the kafirs. Allah says, interpretation of the meaning. You, O Muhammad, will not find any people who believe in Allah and the last day, making friendship with those who oppose Allah and his messenger, Muhammad. Even though they were their fathers or their sons or their brothers or their kindred, people. Al-Mujadila 58:22. Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah, may Allah have mercy on him, said, Allah tells us that there is no believer who takes a kafir as a close friend. Whoever takes a kafir as a close friend is not a believer. Outward imitation may be taken as a sign of love, so it is haram. Al-Iqta, 1490. Four. Most of the young people celebrate it because it lets them fulfill their desires, without thinking of the issues of imitation and resembling that are involved. Look at this tragedy, where they go so far as to commit major sins such as zina and the like, by imitating the Christians in something which is part of their worship and which may even be kufr. Some people may wonder, and say, you mean to deprive us of love, but in this day and age we express our feelings and emotions, what is so wrong with that? We say, firstly, it is a mistake to confuse what they call the day with what the real intentions are behind it. The love referred to on this day is romantic love, taking mistresses and lovers, boyfriends and girlfriends. It is known to be a day of promiscuity and sex for them, with no restraints or restrictions. They are not talking of pure love between a man and his wife or a woman and her husband. Or at least they do not distinguish between the legitimate love in the relationship between husband and wife, and the forbidden love of mistresses and lovers. This festival for them is a means for everyone to express love. Secondly, expression of feelings and emotions is not a justification for the Muslim to allocate a day for celebration based on his own thoughts and ideas, and to call it a festival. Or make it like a festival or Eid. So how about when it is one of the festivals of the kuffar? In Islam, a husband loves his wife throughout the year, and he expresses that love towards her with gifts, in verse and in prose, in letters and in other ways. Throughout the years, not just on one day of the year. Thirdly, there is no religion which encourages its followers to love and care for one another more than Islam does. This applies at all times and in all circumstances, not just on one particular day. Indeed, Islam encourages us to express our emotions and love at all times, as the Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, said. If a man loves his brother, let him tell him that he loves him. Narrated by Abu Dawud, 5124, Al-Tirmidhi, 2329, it is Sahih. And he said, by the one in whose hand is my soul, you will not enter paradise until you truly believe, and you will not truly believe until you love one another. Shall I not tell you of something that, if you do it, you will love one another? Spread the greeting of salam amongst yourselves. Narrated by Muslim, 54. Fourthly, love in Islam is more general and more comprehensive. It is not restricted only to one kind of love, that between a man and a woman. There are many more kinds of love. There is the love of Allah, love of His Messenger, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, and his companions, may Allah be pleased with them, love for good and righteous people. Love and support for the religion, love of martyrdom for the sake of Allah. There are many kinds of love. It is a dangerous mistake to restrict this broad meaning to this one kind of love. Fifthly, what these people think, that love before marriage is a good thing, is wrong, as has been proven in studies and by real-life experience. In a study conducted by the University of Cairo, on what they called love marriage and traditional marriage, the following was stated. In marriages which came after a love story, 88% of cases ended in failure, i.e., the success rate was not more than 12%. But in cases of what the study calls traditional marriage, 70% were successful. In other words, the success rate in marriages described as traditional was 6 times more than those described as love marriages. Rizala il-Mumina, p. 255. Now let us look at the state of affairs in Western societies where Valentine's Day is celebrated, and ask, what is the state of marriage relationships in those societies? And do these celebrations have any positive effect on interactions between husbands and wives? Their own studies and statistics show the following. The study added that there are more women who do not go to hospital for treatment, but deal with their injuries at home. So how can we believe that Valentine's Day is of any benefit to married couples? The truth is that it is a call for more permissiveness and immorality, and the forming of forbidden relationships. The husband who sincerely loves his wife does not need this holiday to remind him of his love. He expresses his love for his wife at all times and on all occasions. The Muslim's attitude towards Valentine's Day. From the above discussion, the Muslim's attitude towards this holiday should be clear. 1. Al-Hafiz al-Dhahabi, may Allah have mercy on him, said, if the Christians have a festival and the Jews have a festival, which belongs only to them, then the Muslim should not join them in that. Just as he does not join them in their religion or their direction of prayer. Tashaba al-Qasis by al-Alqamis, Al-Hikmah Magazine, 4193. Because one of the basic principles of the pious predecessors was al-Wala wal-Bara, loyalty and friendship versus disavowal and enmity. It is obligatory for everyone who says La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah to follow this principle. So he should love the believers and he should hate the disbelievers, oppose them, and be different from them. He should know that will bring immeasurable benefits, just as imitating them causes far greater harm. In addition to that, when the Muslims imitate them it makes the kuffar happy and fills their hearts with joy, and it leads the Muslims to love the kuffar in their hearts. If any Muslim girl who celebrates this holiday because she sees Margaret or Hillary or whoever doing so, this undoubtedly reflects the fact that she is following them and approves of their behavior. But Allah says, interpretation of the meaning. O you who believe, take not the Jews and the Christians as awliya, friends, protectors, helpers, they are but awliya of each other. And if any amongst you takes them, as awliya, then surely, he is one of them. Verily, Allah guides not those people who are the zalimun, polytheists and wrongdoers and unjust. Al-Ma'idah 551. 2. One of the bad effects of imitating them is that this makes it look as if there are more of them, as if they have more supporters and followers. How can it be appropriate for a Muslim who recites in every rak'ah, "Guide us to the straight way, the way of those on whom you have bestowed your grace, not the way of those who earned your anger, nor of those who went astray"? Al-Fatiha 1. 6-7, Interpretation of the meaning. To ask Allah for guidance to the straight path of the believers and to keep him away from the path of those who have earned his anger and of those who went astray. Then go and follow their path by choice and willingly? Statistics indicate that Valentine's Day is second only to Christmas in popularity. So it is clear that the Feast of Love is one of the festivals of the Christians and that it is second only to the festival of Christmas, the celebration of the birth of the Messiah. So it is not permissible for Muslims to join in the celebrations of this date, because we are commanded to differ from them in their religion, customs and other things that belong exclusively to them, as is stated in the Quran and Sunnah and scholarly consensus. 3. Based on what Ibn Taymiyyah said, it is not permissible for Muslim businessmen to deal in gifts for Valentine's Day, whether they are particular kinds of clothes, red roses, or whatever. Similarly, it is not permissible for the one who is given a gift on this occasion to accept it, because by accepting it, he is showing approval of this holiday. One of the Daze said, "We went to a flower shop in one of the Muslim countries and we were shocked to find it completely prepared for this occasion, with red carpets at the entrance, red placards and red decorations. We were met by one of the people who worked there, and we asked him why they had done so much to decorate the place for this occasion. He said that these preparations had begun early, and that there had been very many orders. Then he told us that he had been amazed by that, because he was a new Muslim who had left Christianity. He had known about that before he became Muslim, so how come his customers were Muslims and not Christians? Other shops ran out of red roses, which were being sold at high prices. When one of the female Daze entered upon the female students who were gathered in the lecture hall, she was dismayed to find them all carrying something red. One had a red rose, another had a red scarf, or a red handkerchief, or a red bag, or red socks. Alas for the Muslim girls! Among the things that have been seen among the Muslims on this holiday: 1. Groups of girls entered their lecture rooms on February 14th, each of them wearing something red, with red heart-shaped stickers on their faces, wearing red makeup. They started to exchange red-colored gifts and kiss one another warmly. This happened in more than one university in the Muslim world, even in an Islamic university. In other words, they were celebrating Saint Valentine's Day. 2. On that day, secondary schools, high schools, were astonished by the large numbers of female students who brought red roses of the finest quality, colored their faces with red cosmetics, wore red earrings, and started to exchange gifts and warm greetings, in celebration of this day. 3. Al-Massa al-Arabiya, the Arabic encyclopedia, says that there are special customs for Valentine's Day, such as printing love poems on cards to be given to relatives and those whom one loves. Some of them draw funny pictures on these cards, and the most common phrase written on them is "Be my Valentine." Parties are often held during the day, where they dance in their fashion. The Europeans still celebrate this holiday. In Britain, sales of flowers reached £22 million. More chocolate is consumed on this day, and companies offer free messages on their websites to advertise those sites. 4. Valentine's Day has come to a number of Arab and Muslim countries, and has even reached the heartland of Islam, the Arabian Peninsula. It has reached societies which we had thought far removed from this insanity. In Riyadh, the price of roses has risen in a crazy manner, so that a single rose costs 36 reals, $10, whereas before this day it cost 5 reals. Gift shops and card shops compete in designing cards and gifts for this occasion, and some families hang up red roses in the windows of their homes on this day. 5. In some of the Gulf countries, shopping centers and hotels have organized special celebrations of Valentine's Day. Most of the stores and business places are covered with red. One of the finest Gulf hotels was full of balloons and dolls. Following the customs of the Feast of Love and the pagan myths, the restaurant put on a dramatic production with Cupid, the idol of love in the Roman myths, nearly naked and carrying a bow and arrow. He and his cohorts were looking to select Mr. and Mrs. Valentine from among the people present. 6. Less expensive restaurants also celebrated this day in their own way. Some stores replaced their regular plates with heart-shaped plates, used red tablecloths and linens, and put a red rose on each table for the man to present to his beloved. 7. The latest Valentine's Day craze was started by the owner of a gift shop in Kuwait. He imports, live, French rabbits which are small and have red eyes. He puts a necktie around the neck of each rabbit, and puts it in a small box to be given as a gift. We must oppose these things by all possible means. The responsibility rests with us.